Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them. Read the standing orders. Read them and understand them.
To Oakham Town Council meeting on the 8th of February at 6:30. Firstly, I'd like to thank Kathy for stepping in at the last minute because unfortunately the clerk hasn't let me know that he's not coming in.
There was an email, Madam Chairman, saying that he requested a day off for a funeral.
Half a day off
for a funeral. Yes.
And would let me know if he was going to come in for this meeting, which he hadn't done.
But I just think he's still at the funeral.
Yeah, but it doesn't take much to just let us know. Thank you. Okay, number 1, apologies and reasons for absence. I think we haven't got Rita, we've got everybody else. Do we want, she's usually about 5 minutes late, do we want to just hold on or do we want to...
Well, we've not seen apologies, have we?
No.
Yes.
Okay, so Rita's absent. So, anybody like to propose that she's absent? Just put it. Right, okay. Declarations of interest. Anybody got anything to declare? No. Okay. Deputations from the members of the public. Do you have a deputation to give us this evening, sir?
No, I'd just like to enjoy the meeting, actually.
Enjoy?
Well, that was the books.
No, he's not.
We can say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the councillor who published all the, apart from the previous minutes, on the website at last, and that saved me complaining. And I did send an email to the office thanking them for doing that.
Noted. Thank you. Okay, number 4, full council minutes. To confirm the accuracy of the minutes held on the 11th of January. Councillor Romney.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Several things. On 012310, there is a proposal there completely missing, because it was proposed that the R&P committee produce a comprehensive and full budget for the events for 23-24. 012311, the council vacancy, we actually voted not to advertise because of there only being 3 months left. And on 012315, it's only a technical point. I know we all said no, but I think where we put N, I think we should have put A, because members of the public might not know what N means. So A would be for against. That's just a technical.
So which one was that, sorry?
That's the Queen's statue. I know we all said no, but I think we should have put A as being against the proposal. Yes, but it's a recorded vote. It was a recorded vote.
Oh, okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, just to
members of the public might not know what N is, where F and A would be for and against, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Oh, right.
It was just a technical.
So it's got with N, isn't it? And it's
Yeah.
not very clear whether that's...
I think it should be an A.
Okay, so do we want to defer these minutes to the next meeting then?
No, well, with the amendments that have been suggested by Councillor Romney, I would propose that we accept them.
Okay.
And you said here probably second that because...
I will.
Okay, all those in favour of accepting them with the changes? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillors, questions?
Can I have a point of order on this one? Just because, actually, I was going to reply to Councillor Lowe, and when I read my minutes, Councillor's questions, question 9, A councillor may seek an answer to 1 question per meeting concerning the public business of the council, providing 3 days notice, blah, blah, blah. And B, the person to whom the question is put may decline the answer. That was standing orders which lasted until June. We then move on to the new model standing orders, which is what was all accepted in June. And unfortunately, standing order 9 is motions for a meeting that requires written notice to be given to the proper officer. We haven't picked, when we had nominated it, we didn't pick up that there is no councillors' questions in our standing orders anymore. And I did ask the clerk to clarify that with me before I raised it this evening. and he agrees that there is nothing in there. I've read it
So
twice.
you raised that with the...
With the clerk. I read it twice and I couldn't even
raise
find
it with the clerk?
I couldn't find it.
When did you raise it with the clerk?
Yesterday.
Right.
Because I looked for it twice and just couldn't, because that's what I was going to reply to you,
Yeah.
and I went, oh, I must write down what it is exactly, and that's when I went, it's not in here, it's in the other ones. So we missed that when we...
Notwithstanding what comments, I think personally, and this sorry, Madam Chairman, I speak.
Yeah.
I agree with the statement, but it does look as if there's been a bit of a oversight, thank you. Oversight within the actual orders. So I think perhaps if we go with the spirit rather than the actual, in this particular case, because you're perfectly liberty to say, to allow the questions or not to allow the questions,
Well,
and then you can still exercise your right not to respond if you so wish, you know.
But with all due respect, you're now asking a question under Standing Order 9 that does not exist. And that's what I'm saying. That I didn't realise, and you know me, I know this, I'm really odd on these, and I hadn't picked it up in the new Standing Orders.
But are you suggesting that we don't hear these questions at all?
Well, unfortunately, the item does not exist. Standing Order 9.
But for clarity, what I will do, Chairman, is I will withdraw the questions where I had asked on email as to why Councillor Romney provided, where could he provide evidence of unauthorised expenditure and pension on social media. I will withdraw that question. And I'll also withdraw the question which we put to Councillor Ainsley as to why he acted unilaterally on behalf of the Council without permission. So I withdraw both questions.
Okay.
But I think, Madam Chair, that's something we need to pick up. I think we need to go through these standing orders that we agreed in June, because there are a lot of bits that should have been filled in, and we didn't. We just accepted them carte blanche.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So I think we need to look at that.
Cover up our errors. It's very important.
I think...
Let's move forward.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the standing orders that prohibits questions being
Yes, they're not in there. You can't ask something that's not in standing orders.
Can we not?
Standing orders run the meeting.
Can we not suspend standing orders and then ask the
No, because
question?
it's not in there. You can't suspend something that's not in there.
Alright, let's go on with the
I
next.
just think it's important that we address these issues. So how
I
would you
think we need
propose
to
that we
speak
address
to
them?
the clerk and see why it's not
I'll put it on
in.
an agenda, actually.
Yeah.
For,
It's just ticking boxes at the end of the day.
It is.
We-
There's some very
we-
serious
by-
allegations here, and I think we need to answer them. So I want to know how we, as a council, intend to bring this forward.
Maybe there'll be a third question as to why people are skirting around these allegations. Let's not worry about it. We're moving forward, Chairman.
Let's abstain. No, not abstain.
Let's
Defer.
Defer
just move on.
and go on.
See, start the call.
Clerk's report. Now, as you know, the clerk isn't here, so I'm just going to take a note from his notes for the meetings that we sent last night. Hopper, we have had a number of emails thanking Oakham Town Council for the continuation of the service. A kit meeting needs to be arranged as soon as possible with Emma to discuss the service and any changes we have identified required. I think the question was, can we change the signage? We weren't worried about
Yeah, I don't think they changed.
anything else.
They look very nice, they're very nice
That
green
has
ones.
happened.
Look like they're-
The church grant, following the last meeting where a grant was awarded to the church for the window restorations, we have subsequently heard back from them to thank us for the generous offer, but their funding target has already been met and they do no longer require this grant. Which is very nice of them to admit that they don't actually need it. Groundman's progress. Lee has been working for the last few weeks clearing and tidying the hedges around Cuts Close and Willow Crescent. He has also cleared and tidied the passageway from the marketplace to Cuts Close. A lot of dead wood has been cleared and Lee has done exceptionally well with this. So that is the clerk's report. Somewhere in here I have one. We will go to the chairman's report. Since the last meeting, I was present at the unveiling of the plaque on the site opposite that was a Quakers burial ground, which UPS have now set up their station, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, there's a plaque that we've unveiled over there, and the lady from the Quakers came down and we had our pictures taken, and yeah, it's quite a nice little plaque down there. I also went along to the unveiling of the notice board on the bypass next to the canal, which Oakham Town's Council granted money for. I also went along to the Save the Catless College Sports Centre on Monday. I personally believe it is something we should be working with RCC to come up with a solution. This is something that we'll bring back to Council at a later date. I'm going to have words with Lucy Stevenson and see if there's anything we can do. I'd also like to congratulate Deputy Clerk Kathy for completing and passing her Introduction to Local Administration course that she's just taken. So well done, Kathy. So she doesn't do anything right now. She's naughty. Okay, number 8, working groups and outside bodies. Discuss the paper submitted by Councillor Lowe regarding party in the park.
Oh yeah, so this was at the Recreation and Planning. The Recreation and Planning supported this paper that be signed off by full councils for the grants to cover that event, the party in the park. So Recreation and Planning seemed in support of it, and then it's been passed over to full council to hopefully support that decision and formally sign off. So if there's any questions, I'll wait. Move. So yeah, voted by Councillor Romney. I will second it, but if anybody's got any questions in the meantime, otherwise we'll go to the vote.
Okay. So those in favour of...
I've got a question.
Oh, well, you didn't put your hand up.
I'm just cogitating. I didn't realise we'd be moving at pace. I apologise.
I am moving the pace.
It's really to do with the fact that has this been considered against the budget for the 23-24?
Yes.
And you're intending to take it out of there?
Yes.
And how much do we have left at the moment? Is it still at 11,000?
10. We'll make it 10, won't it?
Oh, no, I wasn't subtracting what we're, sorry, I was just saying this, nothing has been spent so far.
Nothing's been
Well,
spent.
the 23-24.
No, this was straight out of whatever was budgeted in.
Okay, so this is 2, so that's going to take that to 9, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So 12 then.
No, well, I've got it here. If you want to have a look.
No.
Thank you.
So it was proposed and seconded, you got that?
Yeah.
Did you want us to vote
No.
now? No.
Okay, all those in favour, please vote.
Can
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's all right. Leo was thinking about it.
that's fine.
Can you just check on the budget how much it was? I thought it was 12. We were given.
I have it here, which is a printout of what we actually published and what we agreed at council.
Right.
And it was, and the budget for events promotions of Oakham, which is what we're taking it out of promotions, was 11k.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we change our figures, so.
I was going to say, all that work you do on the next paper.
Right, so,
What's here?
to discuss and agree the setup of a working group, because of the timescales, myself and Kathy have put together a rough guesstimation of expenditure on the vans this year. Obviously we were working on 12,000, so we just need to shave off a bit. We had got 300 spare anyway. Councillor Romney.
Just a quick question. Was it through you to the chairman of the finance committee? It was 11,000, but then you've got the £1,000 that come from the
Advertising.
no, the commemoration budget.
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
appreciation.
Oh, well, that's not quite well.
Am I correct? Is that right?
fine.
Yeah,
We know what we're doing,
correct?
isn't
There was
it?
£1,000 set aside primarily with the King's Coronation.
Right. Yes.
So
Okay,
that
thank
makes your figures
you.
right then, doesn't it?
Thank you, yes, that just made us right.
Events, £11.
And £1,000 for the
Can I ask a
coronation.
question there? Just to thank you very much for doing this. I mean, this helps a lot. I'm a little bit, I know you said it's only rough, I'm a bit concerned that we're looking at spending £500 on a band for 2 hours.
Right.
And also in your budget on the bank holiday weekend, you've not allocated any expenditure for toilets.
No.
And
Because we decided because it wasn't going on late, we didn't need to spend
okay,
money on toilets.
that's fine. And the other thing was, I see nothing on here for Christmas. Are we being a bit grinchy?
Cancelled it.
Yeah, we've cancelled Christmas.
Right.
No, we haven't. Please don't panic about
The only
this.
thing I'm going to say is, you can't cancel Christmas. Only council can cancel Christmas. And as we've not debated whether we're going to have a Christmas event or any of the other events, I think that's something perhaps that we should have been discussing at R&P, really, isn't it? So I think we should be deciding as a council whether we're actually going to do something for Christmas or we're not. But that's me. But yeah, thank you very much for your brief budget.
Thank you. Well, I mean, these are, like I say, our own guesstimations. Until we've actually been out there and booked these bands, we don't actually know precisely. And as you say, 500 is a lot to spend on a band, because some of them will only be something like 350, 400, and maybe then we can pull back some of the money towards Christmas. But until we actually start booking, we don't know exactly how much bands are going to cost, and that's why we've gone for a larger figure than I believe we will need.
So this will enable you to agree that, this will enable you to get the sum of it sorted, get some definitive costings in there, whatever budget is left then will go towards whatever does or doesn't happen at Christmas.
Yes.
Is a reasonable
Yes.
assumption. So you're basically looking for somebody to propose that this indicative costing is accepted.
Yes.
Anybody want to?
I'll propose.
I will second it because we need to move forward.
Thank
Because
you.
if we don't start booking bands, we're not going to see them.
Can I put an amendment in there that the same brief budget is brought back to each meeting once a month as you're spending money, so we
Yeah, yes, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Can I just break the point then? We have requested of the clerk that at every meeting that we actually get a breakdown of budget and the expenditure taken from budget each calendar month, until such times as we get more rigorous in our spending plans.
Okay, so where did we get to? I proposed, you seconded, all those in favour?
with David, with my
With
amendment.
David's amendment.
I can accept that then.
Paul, are you? Thank you.
It was right. It was
With
right.
us
It was
or
right.
without us?
Doing it good
Right,
work.
you've got-
It was.
It will be good. I'm not.
Are we setting up a formal working group there? Or not?
Do we think it's worth setting up a working group now?
People.
Because obviously
It'll all change.
we've only got another probably 1 or 2 meetings before we actually start again.
Can I make
Start
a
fresh.
suggestion?
Yes.
That you and the deputy clerk get some rough ideas of what you want to do, you know, what sort of bands you want to do, and so on and so forth, and bring it to the next RP meeting.
Okay, we can do that.
I love it.
Thank you. Okay, correspondence. To consider correspondence. Are there any notes for correspondence on here? Sorry. It just says to note. I have got, and I did ask for this to be included properly into the agenda, but it doesn't seem to be.
No,
I haven't.
I think
Well, I couldn't find it on there either.
sorry, it was, and then it's been changed.
So we need to. We've had a letter from Hegarty Solicitors.
That is on the items for pack on the website, yes.
It's been changed.
But it's not on the agenda. So what does it come under?
It's on the pack. This correspondence.
30 miles.
Yeah. Something.
So it is on the correspondence on the
What's it from Hegarty?
Right, Hegarty's, we want to cancellation of the lease of the Victoria Hall, which we have been looking into for quite some time now, and we really would like to get this signed and sorted and out of the way, because it has been hanging about since the previous clerk was here. They are requesting £338 to deal with it. Are we happy?
Removing the documentation. So this is all about actually removing it from the documentation, not because the lease has already expired. I'm sure we made that point.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course you can.
Would someone please mind just updating me with the background so I'm just aware of what cancellation of lease? I know, I think you've probably done the research.
We used to, go on. We used to have council offices in the Victoria Hall.
Yeah.
At that time, if I'm correct, we also leased part of the building. Is that correct? And obviously when we moved out, we needed to be taken off the lease, and I believe that's what this is all about.
So the legal documents that currently are named still a leaseholder, but it has expired from contract.
Yes.
Correct.
But you still have to have it removed officially,
Thank you.
and that's where.
And the cost to do that is
£338.
Correct. I've got a concern really. Has anyone investigated whether, I know it's not a vast sum of money, but I know that these type of organisations often do it anyway. Has VAT been charged on the disbursements that they've charged? Because that is not legal and they often do it anyway.
It does say plus VAT here.
It does. So they should not, if it is, it needs to be queried and removed.
So you shouldn't have VAT on it?
You shouldn't have
Oh,
VAT
right.
on disbursements. Their fees, fine disbursements.
Okay.
I think subject to that point being addressed, I'm going back to Hegarty's, is that it's within the clerk's payment discretionary amount, and that the council is so minded that we authorise the deputy clerk in the clerk's absence to liaise with the clerk in getting this paid up and the lease cleared.
No, definitely.
Basically everything that everybody said, but I did have some really confusing.
So are you
statements.
proposing that?
Yes.
Do we have a seconder? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Happy to take all the check on the liaison and the Ben as well.
Finances and governance issues. Hang on, I'm running out of pages. No, I have another correspondence here. Sorry, I do apologise.
Kate.
That is from Kate Howarth. I've just had a very useful meeting with Stephen Griffiths about the county service for the coronation. It will be on at 10:30 on Sunday, May the 7th, at All Saints, and last about an hour. We need to send out invitations, much as we did for the Platinum Jubilee. We think a parade before the service, but we have now spoken to the Lord Lieutenant, and we are going to have a parade after the event, so that we can include some of the schools and children to be part of the parade. But obviously we've got to, that's just up here somewhere, and we're going to look into that. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
You can.
So is the R&P committee going to be looking at what we might or might not be doing at Cuts Close following the parade, etc., on that day? Because we have set aside £1,000, haven't we?
We have, yes. So we haven't booked anything yet for that though, have we?
You did have, it's on your list, Madam Chair.
It's on the list.
Yes. So we just got to, me and Kathy had a meeting with the Lord Lieutenant last Thursday, and that's when we decided that we'd have this parade afterwards, and then we will put something together to bring back to council regarding the £1,000 spending. Okay? Right, back to the finances.
So you don't need to propose on that, no?
No, that's just the information noted. I do have a question myself about finances. I'll direct it to Councillor Ainsley, he may know the answer to this question, is that during the putting together of the budget, it was decided that we would review the rents. Has that been done by finances?
I have seen one letter that has gone out. I haven't seen the other letters, and I haven't seen the advice to the dance studio that actually we're going to continue with their rent. So the answer to your question is yes, but I haven't seen them.
Okay.
I have asked that question of the clerk.
Okay, so we need to remind him.
Yeah, he did show me one of the letters, but
Okay, because we don't want it to be in the budget and then we don't get it, you know.
precisely correct.
Okay.
I did chase it earlier.
All right, I going to have a couple of other questions, but obviously, because the clerk's not here to answer them, I don't know whether I should actually... If anybody knows the answer to these questions that I've got, please let me know. Right, we had some electrics works done for £690.
What sheet?
From what I'm on page 76, it says at the top of it. And it's
a alarm
Bogle
to move a
Group.
socket.
Yeah, that was.
No idea.
Well, that's to do with Christmas lights, right? Okay.
Do we know what it was? I mean, it's to do with Christmas lights. I thought we got a contract for Christmas lights. Why are we paying extra for Christmas
We had to
lights?
get out a contractor to the electrics, because it was actually the electrics that were dodgy, not the actual lights.
Oh, I see. Right, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also wanted to know what the training fees were for, £80. I've not been aware of any training going on.
We did go on the training course. You know, when you're on Zoom.
What was that?
That was £40 each.
What was it? What was
It
the
was,
training?
Did you want it?
I don't know. I don't remember being on it in January.
No, it wasn't in January.
Yeah, it
That's
depends when the bill
bill
came
came in. It was, I think, December. I've got the date.
Okay.
I remember that. So.
You're doing well, keep going.
Down a bit further, we've got £94.39 worth of Viking. In fact, we've got quite a lot of Viking things on here. I just wanted to have a bit of a breakdown on what we are actually spending all the money at Viking on. I'm not saying we don't need it, but I think we need to have a bit more of a breakdown so that we know. Yes.
I would say that given the amount of queries, and because in actual fact you mentioned Viking, because I'm conscious of that we returned an A board to Viking, and I'm not sure that we've had the money back for that. So I would recommend that we can't sign off the accounts at this moment, and we defer them until the clerk can answer the questions on them. Because there's also a big one about there's £100,000 transfers on the accounts, things like that, and it transpired that I don't know if council knew about that. So I'd recommend that we defer them.
I certainly didn't know.
No. Shall we defer them till the next meeting then when the clerk can answer the question?
Yes.
It may be the deputy clerk can answer this one if it's separate with Bogle Group. Do anything about the Bogle Group?
Yes.
That's what
So,
we just said.
We talked about Bogle Group.
did you say Bogle Group?
Yes,
We
sorry.
did. It's for the electrics, for the Christmas. So we're deferring 10-1 and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor vacancies. Discuss the vacancy on the council following the resignation of Councillor Graham. I think I've got a bit of a note just here somewhere.
I'd like to move the same as last meeting, Madam Chairman.
To discuss the co-option to this
We'll leave it
vacancy.
until May.
Leave it until after, right, okay, so Councillor Romney is
Sorry, can I
proposing
just, we have still got an advert up for a councillor vacancy on the website. Just to
okay,
confirm, we haven't had any interest, is that correct?
yes,
Thank you.
What?
not that we're aware of anyway.
That would be
Which
called an election.
which councillor is that for? Oh, is that the notice that
It's
there's a
about.
vacancy?
No,
All right, yeah,
So
sorry.
That's a statutory requirement.
Yeah,
So if someone
There's a
is
banner going
interested,
on.
there is a vacancy.
yeah, no, they'd have to call an election.
I thought we could co-opt.
No, they have to
That
call
will
an
be
election
decided
first,
now.
then we decide we want to co-opt.
Right,
So if they don't
Should
call
in a
the
month's
parish,
time we can't make any decisions anyway. It's close. We've had a request from Oakham Baptist Church to use Puts Close on the 28th of May. What?
We're
not worried about it. Unless it's a special one. Okay, so basically they've chosen Sunday the 28th of May as it is Pentecost. And half-term bank holiday, so lots of reasons for a party. They will be supplying food, drinks, games, live music, children's activities, daytime only, 10 till 3 to be confirmed. They do ask that they can borrow our chairs, water and electricity, which I don't see that being a problem.
Can you borrow electricity? Anyway.
Behave. Okay. So I'd like to propose that we allow them. Do you have a question?
I do.
Go on then.
Do we have any idea of how much electricity they're going to be using? Do we have any idea of cost? Wouldn't it be better to take up their offer to go through the details if we're given the go-ahead? So I would suggest that we actually just say that we give them provisional go-ahead subject to the discussions. The budget's
Sorry.
No. Okay.
I was thinking about that.
I'm going the other way because we've already agreed that we're going to allow the Gay Pride to use it and other organisations, and this is the same. So for me, this is where we're back to being that community enabler. So I'm going to move, unless I can't remember, I'm going to move that we allow them to use this and our electricity because it's a community event.
May I please ask a question?
You can indeed.
Is there a cost for people to enter
No,
this?
it's all free.
That was a bit quick.
Sorry.
I don't see the harm in chatting through the details.
All right. I can't imagine that they'll use an awful lot.
No, because it will only be for the microphones.
It's only costs about £44.
Not a playground, right?
It does say, oh sorry to interrupt, it does say food hygiene certificates here though, which does imply that probably there's going to be food. So unless they're giving away the food, there might be some sort of profit involved somewhere in it. So the food will be given away for free.
It's a very similar event to what they had for Churches Together at the end of the season. It was actually mentioned to me then about maybe proposing this one because it's the 250th year of Oakham Baptist Church. And I did say, well, yeah, along the same lines. So I'm assuming that, they didn't have big noise. It was just a couple of guys on guitars singing.
And they don't have alcohol.
Yeah, it was more, I think, if there's stalls and people are... So
I don't think they're going to have stalls.
Yeah.
They're going to have the stalls run by the church.
But I mean, even when we have our events, the only people that actually have electricity is the bar, because and that's it. Nobody else uses electricity.
Yeah.
They all have their own. Most things are on gas, aren't they?
I still. It isn't just electricity, is it? It's all about food hygiene certificates, risk assessments,
Well, they will all be presented to the office before.
And give a provisional. I can't understand the reluctance to
No. I'm
No,
not against it chatting. I just think it's a community thing, isn't it? Just me.
They won't be allowed to do these things without the food hygiene certificates, etc. Because
we need to,
that's all part of
just due diligence, isn't it?
Yes, well, it's all in the what's the word? Policy.
Yes.
Policy for events. There is an events policy, and it does state in there that all these things must
So
be
let's
adhered
provisionally
to.
accept it and
chat. Move that then.
yes.
Move that then.
So who's moving?
Move it.
David's moving.
No, Paul's
I'm
moving.
going to move that one.
I should withdraw mine.
Yeah, I just think it's sensible. It's due diligence, isn't it?
What's the
Governance.
proposal then?
So
My proposal is that we provisionally accept that they can use Cuts Close, but we welcome the opportunity to chat through the details.
Yeah, I've got her number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder?
Has it got to come back to council?
I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. No, I think perhaps we could put that in as an amendment that if it meets all the criteria through the office, that council approves.
Yes.
Did you want to second it, Hannah?
Yep.
Yeah, all those in favour?
He's teasing you, Madam Chairman.
Well, this is the interesting.
Trees.
Thank you, Chair. So, unfortunately, as you see on the paper, there isn't an easy route to plant trees on Cuts Close, which we thought might have been nice for the shade that would have given to concerts in the summer. But Historic England, there are, the council knows the difficulties because it is an important archaeological site. So, I am going to introduce, so I've got some notes, so do bear with me, that urban trees are increasingly recognised for many benefits, and they remove carbon, they help with reducing pollutants, providing habitat for wildlife, making where we live more attractive, enjoyable and healthy places to spend time in. When we previously had a paper, I'd suggested, following my discussions with the tree officer at the Rutland County Council, potentially looking at common white beams, field maples and small-leafed lime trees, because he suggested these were resilient and good for our soil without needing too much long-term maintenance. So I've got a motion and potentially some actions. Were there any questions, or did people want me to read further? I've got some extra facts to share, but also I'm conscious of time, so.
Councillor Rodney.
Yes, and then only when this first came, the only reason we got involved in this was they were giving us the trees.
Yes.
And now we're looking at spending £4,000. And I'm a bit confused as to where the free trees have disappeared to. That's my real question. And unfortunately, we haven't budgeted for £4,000 to a traditional tree. So this, if we agree to this, this would have to go to 24-25 budget, in my view, because we've already, unless you're going to take it out of general reserves
For this year.
for this to do it in 23-24.
Yeah, thank you. That was one of the difficulties of doing it the other way around to your next item. So previously we had on our budget 10,000 for planting and tree surgery. I had actually originally written this motion without putting any cost in at all, because there are free trees available through various sources like Woodland Trust. Various local people have sources that have grown trees, but the problem is that the kind of coming back and forth takes a long time to get a tree planted. So in answer to your first bit of the question, the free trees that Rutland County Council thought they had, which was quite confusing at the time, because Historic England no longer say they're allowed to plant there, and that was why they were planting on Cuts Close, because of the trees that had been removed around the mount of the castle. Because of that, they don't then need to plant in those places, but that doesn't mean that we won't be able to access potentially their support in planting pot, and we potentially might not need to spend any of this money. My personal feeling is that I'm very conscious of public money, so therefore I wouldn't want to spend any of it at all, but in order to kind of move forward with looking at how to plant trees and where to plant them, to put a figure there is a starting point. Any further questions, comments?
Yeah, I think I have a real problem with the figure of 4K, primarily because the budget for the year for our trees, and there's other items to come in a minute, which will be spending that budget, is very limited. So I'd really like to have a very clear idea of where we're going to do this spend before we authorise it, would be my recommendation, because to say you have control of 4K budget when that represents half of the tree budget, seems to me to be an excessive amount. So I really want much more detail, I'm afraid.
It is less than we suggested to put towards the windows and the statue, but I appreciate that people don't see trees in that same value. But remember, you made...
I don't think that's relevant, but to be honest with you, but I mean, it's where this money's going to come from. We've just completed the budget, and so we'd have to discuss that further. And therefore, I'd like more detail before we actually decide to take from reserves or rob Peter to pay Paul. So,
I'm in support of making sure that we don't overspend. We know where all our monies are. So, would council be happy with a smaller figure or with?
I personally am not happy with anything because we were offered free trees and these aren't free. We can look at putting in trees later on in the year when we've halfway through our budget or something like that and we've got some spare cash to put some trees somewhere, but I just don't see the reasoning behind just putting some trees up just because we were offered free trees that aren't free anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know sometimes I don't make sense.
I'm with you on that.
Can we come back with more detail? I mean, what you intend to do? It's all sort of give me 4K and I'll sort it out. Was really the sort of impression I've got.
The 4,000 is only in this in order to be able to move forward, but I'm absolutely happy to keep coming back with updates once I've met with the tree officer at each of the places. But I think from the last meeting we had, it was very much like cuts close and we will just look at there first. And now I think we're looking potentially at Royce or Centenary Fields. Actually, the clerk had suggested that I put that second clause in there in order to move things quicker, but it can be removed. So we can just have council to plant additional trees.
But they're not free.
Because they
As
can't
they were
plant any
originally
on your
stated,
field.
they were free. And they're not free now.
And they
So
can't,
what we're saying is we haven't got the 4 grand that they're now. Even if it wasn't 4 grand, we haven't got any money put to one side for putting in trees. We need to keep, especially at the beginning of the year, we need to keep our budget for the trees in case we have bad storms and all the trees fall down.
to have Leicestershire
And then we have to
University Archaeological Department and pay them digging a hole to check there's nothing being taken out that shouldn't. And I think it cost us, when I was on the council and Joyce got the tree, I think it cost us about £260.
So it's really a slow burn. I think probably most of us agree that having trees around is a nice thing. So this is a long-term plan for how do we make sure that we don't lose all our trees because we've not replanted any. So however we can go about doing that, I am very supportive.
Yeah, I think we want the trees, but I think we could easily defer this to next year's budget.
I would. We planted trees on the Centenary Field this year already.
Yes.
Which was through the tree chap. So it looks like Cuts Close is completely off the ballpark.
Definitely.
We've gone from 3 trees to £4,000. It's a huge leap. I mean, I can't. I would say that we keep the paper alive, but with no budget allocated against it, and see what we can do. Because I mean, there's been people planting trees around Oakham with no cost, no consideration, and actually no planning permission. So I haven't got a problem with keeping the paper alive because I think trees are important. I love a tree. We planted one in our block. We didn't. It's self-seeded. You can have it. It's a nightmare. I want to say that the pigeon loves it. But we need to. We can't have a paper that gives an opening in the budget. But keep the paper alive. When we get into 2023-24, you're correct. We did spend £5,000 on churchy stuff, and we're not going to be allowed to do churchy stuff in the future. By the way, it could be that there's a specific grant request coming through asking that we spend some of that grant money on trees. But we need to know the cost of the tree, how many, and where.
I'd just like to make a point. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I'd just like to say that right up front. And I also feel that I agree with Councillor that we should continue to move forward with the initiative to looking at tree planting within on our parks. I just want to make one point, which is, and I'm by no means a horticulturalist. Actually, the tree planting season is not restricted if actually you plant trees in pots. And so if they're actually bare root, they can only go in at certain times of the year, but if they're not bare root, you can actually plant them at any time of the year. Just want to make that point. So I don't think therefore time constraints are necessarily true.
That is a factual statement. But I think they do have a better chance if they don't go in the drought season. So
yeah, I agree with all of that. I'm just saying, but I think we should initiative. Oh, I'll let you speak. No. I was going to propose that we continue with the tree planting investigation,
yes,
and that we don't, and that's about as far as we go.
Yeah, I'm on the same sort of similar lines. I was just going to say, I think that Councillor Williams perhaps ought to do a paper for a scheme somewhere, either St Everyfield or Royce's, bring that back to council, then we could then put that ready for when we set the budget next year, because that would be a project, and we always do projects the following year. Yeah, you budget. You come up with the idea one year, we budget it the following year, and do it that would probably be a way forward to help Councillor Williams move this forward.
Okay. So what do you propose?
May I propose that I have permission from the council to proceed with looking at planting trees. So how we've got the wording here saying council to plant additional trees and or hedgerows on centenary fields and or Royce Park. Is that statement satisfactory if we removed the second sentence, or does it need rewording?
I think it needs to say council to continue to investigate the planting of additional trees. It's to continue to investigate, not that we're agreeing to plant additional trees.
Oh no, I'm just on the internet. Did you get that?
Say that again, sorry.
The council agreed to allow you to continue to investigate the planting of additional trees and or hedgerows on Centenary Field and or Royce's Park.
Perfect. So at the moment I've not had permission to do that, so we haven't got anything because
well, if you can bring it in zero cost, perfect. You can do what you want.
Well, it's a 10-year contract.
So obviously I would like to propose that.
Okay. Do we have a second or? Very shy Councillor Ainsley.
Unusually shy.
Whatever. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a paper here. I believe the clerk is being down to have a look at these trees that have fallen out at over 5 Chester Road on the willow allotments. So Rushton Trees have been asked to give a quote and to cut them back and make them safe and dispose of them. It will cost £860 plus VAT.
So I haven't been onto willow allotments. I've had within the last 2 years, and I have to share the quote, a 10-metre high large tree and a conifer hedge removed for less, 588 I think. And I appreciate inflation, but I wonder if we might be able to get a second quote.
Yeah.
Councillor Lowe, can we ask,
who did you use?
Which they're standing orders say they should do more than one.
That would be the vote at this moment. Actually, who's on the board? Is that South Ward?
willow allotments, yes.
Isn't it? I didn't know, so apologies to whoever owns that ward, but when I saw the figure, I thought, get out, for a start, because we have been paying a lot of money over to some of our tree contractors without true sight of what is actually being done. And from the pictures I couldn't understand, so I went down and had a look at the allotment, right down to the edge. There's a possibility in that track, because I don't know if our boundary is this side of the stream, and the The other side of the stream is somebody else's, because normally where there's a stream, there's a boundary issue. There's a question mark that there's some of these trees that are overhanging this person's garden could actually not even be on the allotment. But on saying that, they all seem to come from the same routing. I also did speak to the resident that lives there. I actually asked if I could have a word because she was outside, and she allowed me to go into her garden so I could actually see what the problem was. And the pictures that have been sent down by Rushton trees sort of show very clearly this one tree here. Now if he just takes out that one tree, which is only about that sort of diameter trunk, we're not talking oak tree stuff. It's actually not a very big diameter trunk, it's literally collapsed and it's sort of fallen in, but it's not been falling in very suddenly, and it's probably been ongoing in this lady's back garden for several months, 6 months at least. And with all the autumn leaves coming down, it looks a lot worse, because it looks like skeletons have fallen all over the place. But when you go down and look in the garden, there's actually probably about 5 or 6 trees which have done exactly the same. And what the quote doesn't tell me that have been put in by Rushton, whereas I appreciate that they've gone down, it doesn't identify what are they taking out. Because they might go down and take out the one, which is definitely one on her back fence, or leaning on her trees in her garden. But then again, if they're not going to take out the rest, then it's only part of the job. The lady also advised me that the land adjacent to her property belongs to the council. Not this council, otherwise we could build a snake on. But I believe it belongs to Rutland County Council, but it's a small landlocked, literally locked in by the houses piece of land. So it's bordered by people's houses on Jasper Road and our allotments. And there's a lot more of this tree which is sort of going into that as well. So I think that what Hannah suggested there is that we have got scope, we certainly have time, where we can ask Rushton trees to quantify what they would be taking out, and also then we should invite other tree contractors to go along and have a look at it, and actually get a more accurate idea, because I don't want this to go down once, take out one trunk or 2 trunks, and actually find, because a lot of these, there's loads of these that just seem to have, they're not so much fallen, but they've almost sort of grown that way. So I would say, and because it's not urgent, it's not life-threatening or health and safety, that we have capacity to defer this while we get some additional quotes, showing due diligence.
Second.
Well, I'd like to raise a point. But I'm trying to get in, but you're also swift.
No swift in them trees.
No.
Why,
if this is on the allotment grounds, why aren't we asking for the allotments to pay for this and to investigate it?
That's a very good point. I'm glad you raised it. Historically, it used to be that the hedges and some of the trees on the allotments, we would ask the allotment society to manage and keep an upkeep of. But there'd be certain things due to health and safety where they couldn't manage some of the trees, so they would probably push this back. But when you go down and visit this area, you will see little stacks of wood, right, you know, where they've cut down trees. So they are doing some work, but these ones are right on the bank of the water, and they're quite imposing onto the person's property. And I would imagine that that's why they probably left those doing professionally. So I think this is out of their scope.
Professional or not, I think I would ask the question of the allotment why they feel they can't deal with it, and then we also get second quotes. I think that's a very reasonable position to take.
Good approach, yeah. So it could be the proposal is that we defer until we get additional quotes and quantify the work, this tree, that tree, that tree, and also ask the allotment society if they want to take it back and they can keep the firewood.
I don't see why we have liability when they're actually leasing the property and it's the trees that they're allowed to grow, blah, blah, blah.
Previously, we have.
So I'd like to clarify that.
Previously, we have managed trees ourselves. They manage hedges normally.
Let's find out why they're not prepared to do it.
And God knows.
Was that a proposal?
So it was
the proposal is that we go
defer to ask if the allotment society would have a go at taking them out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And also to
quantify
the job and ask other tree people to come down and give us a quote.
And just to back up what Councillor Williams said.
This might be a stupid question, but where do Rushton trees come from? Do they actually come from Rushton?
Corby.
They're Corby, aren't they?
So they're not very Rushton.
I had a tree taken out from my front garden, quite a large tree, and that was just about 500 quid.
Have you still got it? Can we put it in cuts, don't we?
No, I killed it and grinded it.
Right, so we have a proposal on the table by Councillor Lowe. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ainsley, all those in favour? Unanimous. We're getting there. Right, where's the going from here? Trees.
Banking.
Banking. Banking. Dr. Romney, I was going to call him then.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is just something I've knocked together quickly, because with all the news that we're now looking at losing our last 2 banks in the town, and I was just mindful that a lot of our elderly residents don't use the internet. And I have noticed that a lot of other towns have set up banking hubs where the banks come in 1 day a week and provide a service. And it's not in a bank, I'm not quite sure what they do, but it's obviously face to face. And I just wondered if it's something at this point we could look at tentatively to see whether we could make an approach to the banks and see whether it's something they'd be interested in setting up. And if so, whether we could actually allow them to use the chamber for that, so that we're enabling again the residents to get access to some sort of banking facility. Because I know a lot of elderly people prefer to go and see somebody as opposed to doing it. I mean, I have clients that don't even use a debit card, for instance, because they don't understand it. And I just think that's something we should be looking into. So that was all it was really, just to see whether as a council we're interested in making this approach to the banks, and if we are, whether we would agree to if we can get that far, whether we agree to use the chamber. The chamber might not be suitable for them, I don't know.
Go on, Councillor Nix. You haven't had a go today.
I'd not only fully support that, but I'd definitely be keen to expand the scope of that and really get us all pushing potentially for something, so with all the banks on a more permanent basis than perhaps just the chamber, to maybe even suggest one of the old banks might not be a bad idea.
Yes, I think that's what some of the places have done.
That's outside the box thinking, like, it's not a bank, you'd have thought.
OTC Bank.
Oh, God.
So I fully support that, and I think we should expand that where possible.
Yes, I think maybe we need to look into.
Mine's quite long.
Well, mine's short.
Well, on banking, wow.
Okay, I'll be quiet. Go on then.
No, I just want to say that I fully support this. It's a wonderful idea, but we did do something for the community. But I also want to. I happened to be in Barclays Bank when they made the announcement, and I was speaking to the young lady that was servicing our requests, and she said that they were considering moving to a smaller premises. So it may well be that once we start to talk to them, that actually it's going to be a lot easier than we think.
If it's in fact we've had a safe put in there, it's perfect.
Get it out, will you?
I could carry that out on one little finger.
Anyway.
Shall we try?
So apologies, I don't know if I'm allowed to email stuff around, but I did find an email, a website from Link, and from my understanding, Link are the people that care whether we have cash access as a society or not, because they make some sort of, hopefully someone else, I think something to do with them, and they've got something called Cash Access UK, and Oakham is actually on a list that I found on the internet for 76 communities that they want to have a banking hub. So I think that there's already something happening, but we don't know what it is, and I've not managed to find anything. But from what I've seen, I don't know if here would be suitable, because I understand that the idea is that commercial banks join together, and they need to have somewhere to securely store cash. But I think that we could probably push it forward and try and find perhaps whoever it is in Link that is following up on us being on that list.
So that would be something for the office to do to run.
Yes, and I believe maybe
get in touch with Mr. Link. How do you spell it?
L-I-N-K.
Just
In support of that, if I may, I know that it was discussed at RCC, particularly when the banks were closing, and they actually, there is an initiative where you actually put your hub in the post office, and that actually then solves an awful lot of problems. So there's an awful lot of avenues to look at here. I think the office may need some support. So I'm looking for volunteers around the room. I'm just hiding under the table at the moment.
I don't have lots of time, but I'm quite passionate about also access to cash. So.
Yeah.
All the basic.
Not mine.
I'm sure you're keen on the cash, aren't you?
No, so it's all, never deal in cash.
Are you volunteering as well there, Councillor Nix?
Yes, I shall put my hand on it.
So if we get Catherine to put
I can't.
So the proposal is that David's proposal is that we explore this further.
With whom in support? Do we get volunteers?
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams, Councillor Nix.
Just more stuff, yeah.
Martin, shush, I can't hear. Please.
I'm not talking that loud.
You are? You've got a very deep
You
voice.
are.
So that was the proposal.
Yeah.
What was the proposal?
Councillor agrees to make an approach to 4 banks to setting up of a hub through the office in conjunction with Councillor Nix and
With
Councillor.
the support of Councillor Nix and Councillor Williams.
Okay, well, I'll happily second that. Councillor Romney. All those in favour? Is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Well, it's finished now.